Welcome to Socialcast, your go-to place to learn about marketing, the latest social media news, and insights. Brought to you by Social Bakers.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us live where we talk about the latest Instagram and Facebook trends. We have so much fresh data to share with you and discuss. We're live on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and we're also turning this into a podcast so you can listen with us later. But please follow along with the report. We're going to be really exploring so much data together and really what does this all mean? So if you want to add your comments as well, we'd be happy to hear them. I'm Monica, I'm head of product marketing, and I'm joined here with two of my close friends.
So Taylor, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, I'm Taylor, content marketing writer. Spent a lot of time working on this trends report, trying to make it the best that we can for you guys. We've been doing this for a while now. It just keeps getting bigger and better each time, more insights, more data, all of that. And looking forward to discussing some of that today.
Yeah, and I'm Mantis. I head up the content team, and I'm just here to throw in my 2 cents. And I mean, you probably
maybe
are,
3 or 4.
maybe more. And I'm sure you all are really curious which trend I lost sleep over for the past week. So, yeah.
I actually am. I don't believe that that's a joke. So.
Cool. We're so excited. Of course, again, watch along with us, add your thoughts. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we hopefully can answer them live with you. So.
Yeah, definitely. And download the report. So the link is there. Go through it with us. And if you're watching on a podcast, of course, we'll try to be, if you're listening to the podcast, we'll
as
try
descriptive as we possibly can,
Yes.
But not in a too creepy way.
All right, let's dive into it. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's do it. So early on, we break this up into sections. We start with the advertising data here, and on page 5, for those following along, share of ad spend, Instagram versus Facebook. There's a clear winner here, been the king for a while, but slipping a little bit when we look at Facebook feed.
Right. Yeah, that's been really the ongoing trend for a while, is that we see so much media attention going towards Instagram and towards spend on Instagram. But of course, we have to be very honest about the fact that Facebook is still a huge player when it comes to advertising, and advertisers are able to drive action on a channel. I don't know, Monica, is there something else that you're seeing?
I'll be curious to see your next couple of reports that you're going to bang out and see how this changes and whether it's just going to be neck and neck this whole time. But you really do have to spend a lot of attention knowing that just because there's a change in Instagram, Facebook is definitely here to stay and a really fruitful place to be spending your money still.
Yeah, and we do churn out these reports quarterly. And of course, if you need vertical data, get in touch with us. We'll give you the vertical data. Taylor, I'll let you move.
So just to kind of put a fine point on that, Facebook feed dropped over the year 64% to 58.3% of all of ad spend.
Okay.
But that's still, 58% is still by far the leader here. So as we said, even if it's trending downward, and we'll monitor that as we keep going, it is still the main place.
Yeah, when do we start sort of quaking and getting worried or thinking something's completely different? We want to say hey to you guys who have joined us on LinkedIn. Petter, Ivan, thanks so much for joining us. If you have any questions, you can, of course, share them with us.
All right, but just moving along a little bit, page 6 for those following along. So Instagram Explorer. I found this one really interesting. It's a new avenue for ad spend. Only started in August that people could actually put some in there. And already we're seeing it, now it may not sound like a lot, but in that 5 months to the end of the year, 1.32% of everything is already in there.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about this when it came out, and a lot of people maybe are starting to spend a lot of time on the Explore page because it's such tailored content. If you're following the right people, if you've curated your Instagram to your most favorite brands, the Explore page is going to be super useful to you. And I'm sure my Explore page looks quite a bit different from yours, Taylor, even from yours. And the ads I'm getting served there, I think are not as disruptive because they feel really part of my whole experience on Instagram.
Finding out right now, so plants, rings, clothes is what shows up. So that does tell you maybe
what is it telling me about your future?
I would say that's at least one of those is accurate for some searching that I may have been doing recently. So it definitely, it takes everything into account. And for those who don't know, if you open up the Explore page, at least for me, the way it's always been that third mural down, the third one that has the shop button, rotates 3 or 4, and it really does. It changes every time you go in there, but is based on what you're looking at.
Yeah, and my 2, 3, 5 cents. It's usually Explore, I suppose, is an area where people go in with in the mood to uncover new content, find something new, and you're in that as a brand. You kind of it's your chance to be discovered. Like it's a discovery process.
Explored. Yeah, it's a great point. People are feeling a little bit different, and definitely more receptive to learning about you and being made aware of what's new and what's going on. So I think it's much less disruptive than maybe some other ads in a super positive way.
Yeah. If I may add another nugget here.
Please
so
do.
Usually when, of course, Instagram releases new placements, so often what happens is that when marketers kind of leave the placement to be done automatically by the Instagram or Facebook algorithm, it kind of tries to test out these new formats. So of course you see a bit of a jump in that placement being more visible. But it's usually like an indicator for me here is that we're seeing it this much is that it's actually working. Like if you even left it automatic and the Instagram is placing your ads in the Explorer, they're probably working. So it's a good indicator.
We have some questions already coming in on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, guys. Great questions so far. We have one coming in based on these data. Which platform is the best to invest in? I think that's coming from our first out of the gate, the share of Instagram and Facebook, and also what we now know about the Explore page. What do you guys think?
Yeah, which platform? So we're talking Facebook or Instagram or just all placements or
I think start with Facebook and Instagram and maybe expand out with what you know.
Okay, so it really depends on what your goal is and what your objective is, and we're actually going to dive into that in just a second. And speaking about, are you trying to convert people into customers? Are you trying to boost awareness for your brand? Are you trying to move people along the customer journey in the consideration stage? The different platform is for the different purpose. And my intuition tells me that Facebook is very good at driving that last point conversion. Instagram, very good for brand awareness. But the data is in the report, and maybe I'm wrong, and we'll find out.
All right, we have another question coming in on LinkedIn. Thank you, from Gianna. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right. What would be the most valuable asset to present to get my company to push more, or at least as much on Instagram as we do on Facebook? So the stakeholder sort of internal buy-in. What do you guys think, or how have you been experiencing this?
Well, some of that, I guess it depends on what field you're working in, right? Because it's easier sell in, say a fashion company. You probably don't have to sell them at all. So if it's a law business, something that doesn't maybe see the use in having kind of a social media presence, I think the best thing you can do is sort of find a case study, find a similar company that was able to do some type of improvement, gain some type of awareness. Because you can even, I would say, if you're starting baseline and really needing to convince, start with just awareness, just getting your name out here. This is another place where we can be seen, and that can only help us in the market. Like you start with kind of minimum easy things to visualize.
Yeah, and we got to drop a case study about a brand that is working with social bakers that completely, like through Instagram, actually increased the sales conversions. It was which brand was it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Trusardi. They were working
yes.
with doing a whole Instagram sort of influencer campaign. They were able to really leverage Instagram super well there.
Yeah.
And we have another question from Bethany. Thanks for joining us. Hi all, excited to dive deeper into these trends. Do you have any data on ROI behind these various ad spends based on placement, or do we just know where the ad spend is directed?
It's in the report.
Yay,
yeah, it's coming
good to
up.
hear
And really sorry, of course, we won't be able to cover the entire report. It's 60-something pages. So definitely download it.
Don't apologize for how many pages it is.
Yeah, but you really got to download it. The data is in there.
Should we jump into ad objectives?
Let's do it.
So going to page 8, for those of you following along. And so what is a marketer's intention when they're putting these campaigns together?
Yeah.
And so that's the sentiment there is what we're breaking down both on Facebook and on Instagram. And something that we kind of talked about the other day that I guess I wasn't too surprised by, maybe you guys were. In both cases, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, conversions just a little bit under 10%. That's the objective. Does that strike you as too high, too low? Is that about right?
Well, personally for me, for Facebook, Yeah, strikes me as a bit low because especially if Facebook is a platform where maybe the experience is such where users don't mind leaving the platform and go to your page, well then what is that conversion that you're tracking that happens on that page? If it's not conversions, are you really just tracking link clicks? We really should be at that stage with these platforms, and that's not just Facebook. That's Instagram included, where we are really tracking actions and conversions essentially, and we need to be able to measure things as far into the funnel as we can. We need to close that conversion because that's how you prove ROI from these platforms.
And do you guys think the kind of evolution of Instagram Shop and the social commerce, everything being much more now contained within that platform, is there going to be a sort of a long-term seismic shift in people being able to actually convert on Instagram more?
That's an interesting point, and we talked about in our last trends report as the benefits in the e-commerce, social e-commerce has just exploded, and it's such a pleasant shopping experience, and it can be on Instagram. And we talked about how it's really tailored to the influencers that you're following or the brands that you're following. So it's a really cohesive, personalized experience. But yeah, once you take them out of that experience, is that something that you do want, or do you want to invest more time in the Instagram strategy that you put together for them?
Right, yeah, and isn't it going to be a huge game changer when you can really advertise the influencer posts and really drive conversions through their audiences? I think that then we'll see this objective sort of rankings of objectives really be reshuffled, I think. Yeah.
We have a question coming in from Hasida. Nice for joining us. Is Gen Z moving out from Facebook to Insta?
Is it? Yeah. Good question. Which one of us here is a Gen Z? So none of us are.
I believe I'm technically a millennial.
But it's true. We have some data, a whole section in the report about age and gender breakdowns across the platforms, and also in terms of their engagement across these platforms. So if you dive into the trends report, you'll be able to really see that granular breakdown of the different ages and where they're spending their time.
Yeah, and I think it's engagement as well by audiences.
It is.
Yeah, so check it out in the report. I think I'm seeing a few questions on Facebook too, so that maybe it's worth answering. So here's one. How can a brand be more visible in the search engines in Instagram and Facebook? So I think we touched on the Explorer tab a little bit. So that's for Instagram.
Yes.
For Facebook, it is a bit kind of, their search works a bit differently than the traditional Google search or whatnot. And you can really see Facebook trying to improve, I think, the search, and they're trying to get more people to use it and discover shops, locations, different businesses through it.
Right.
But I don't know if I have an exact answer of what you should be your strategy right now for search. I think hashtags still make sense for the search. But I don't know. Do you guys have any input there?
And that's kind of the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of the many things that you're just trying to play the game in order to make things work for you. And hashtags has been, a big part of that game for a long time. I don't know that there's, other than just pouring more money into it, whether there's an easy solution there.
Yeah, and the question is too, if you're playing the game, play it right. Make sure content quality is super good, and you're connecting with the right people, targeting the right people, and making sure your ad is really fit for its purpose.
Yeah, well, it's also businesses, or not businesses, but the platforms like Google and Facebook, they're really focusing on getting the right results locally. And Facebook is really being used that way. You can see it. It's no longer, we take it as this big community. It's being divided into Facebook groups.
Yeah,
and then
the little niche communities,
exactly.
Right?
And so is your page set up in a way that it's really going to be found by that local community? That would be my
It's a great
recommendation.
point. Should we keep on going?
Yeah,
What do we got
let's jump
here? I'm so
ahead
excited.
to a regular feature, both in the Trends Report and in separate Facebook Lives, when we take some of our experts here and compare them to our AI bot. So on page 15, we've got the total spend on posts by grade.
Yay,
on
content
Facebook.
quality. This is my favorite topic.
I know it is.
Not just my favorite live format.
So take us through the grades there. What are we seeing?
Yeah, so we talk about so much about content quality being really so important, but what do we mean by content quality and how it really works with what you're spending your money on too? A lot of people may think that content quality can be sort of substituted out if you have a right budget and you can sort of do that. But if you have bad quality content and you're promoting it, that actually doesn't balance it out. It actually does a little worse for you. So we have here in our trends report breaking down content quality and how much people are spending on these types of posts by grade. And these grades are in our platform as well. This is how we grade content quality, how our AI grades content quality. So A+ would be your top benchmark, your internal benchmark, your best post that you've posted.
Yeah.
And then you A and B posts, they're still definitely something you should consider investing in. But there's C and D, then that's a question of whether it's wasted budget.
Yeah, it becomes really costly once you start kind of pushing bad content in front of the audiences. That we were discussing this yesterday, right? There's some misconceptions that marketers have that are a bit funny when it comes to promoting their content. And often, of course, when we create content, it takes so much effort to make it happen and put it out there. And sometimes it's just not so good. But then we're like, well, if it's not so good, then let's put more money behind it so that everyone sees it. And it's like, no,
that'll fix it.
It's not good.
It doesn't give your audiences what they really deserve, which is a really nice experience with you and the content that you're putting out. And that's what really makes the difference when you're investing on social.
Yeah, I think, Monica, this is a quote from you. I actually wrote it down.
You wrote down a quote from me?
Money is not a substitute for quality.
It isn't.
Boom.
Yeah, and that doesn't just mean on social, right?
Yeah.
It means in all facets of life. Stitch that on a pillow.
I believe you might. But if we look at it, this is now the third trends report that I have worked on. And we have seen kind of consistently C&D taking up about a third of the overall spend. If you can give the people listening, watching, one message to take away from this so that they stop wasting that money, what is it? Just listen to the robots, only promote the very best? What can we tell people so that we actually don't see this just kind of going down the drain of Ds?
From my experience, I think it's also about educating your management and stakeholders that content quality is so important, because maybe you are forced or you have a set of budget allocated and you have to use it no matter the content quality, and just knowing that you can save money if you really are investing and really grow your results by investing in quality and not just investing because you have to or you can.
Yeah, and it's also take feedback from the system, and if you don't get let's say all your posts in the A territory, in the B territory, well, then don't do them. just move on to something else. And of course, it's not easy for us because we always stuck doing the same thing, and we move so quickly, and it's easier to do it, but we shouldn't. Yeah.
All right. Jumping forward to one that our data team was very excited to put together. So on page 17, for those following along, we've got the funnel conversion rate, looking at the percentage of impressions to clicks to purchases. This is on Facebook for brand accounts with purchase info available. So this is the first time that we've had this data out there.
Pretty unique.
It's a grand reveal then. Should we just give it a moment?
Well, it's even, it's for those
Should we
who
just
can
give
see
it a
it's
moment?
Up there. Take it all in.
Let it sink in. And
Actually, can you read it to me? I can't really let it sink in.
But I think what's really valuable here is if you look at the next page in the report, and it gives you this exact breakdown by vertical, so you can see what it is in your specific industry, and that's a really valuable takeaway. And I don't know if we really need to dwell on this point too long, but I think it's going to be really valuable to each person and their specific
And it's
industry.
the first time ever that this has been sort of explored and shown by industry as well. So, I mean, just the sort of novelty of it all really is cool that you have access to this data, and what can you learn from new data that you've never actually really been able to access before.
Yeah, but maybe before we move to the section, I think we should really go through some of the questions, because the audience is really pretty active on both LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you don't mind. So
let's see what we got. We have one here from Chantal. Great, thank you for joining us. Do we also cover Snapchat, Pinterest, and TikTok in these reports?
Good question. Taylor?
No.
We don't, but we
not at this time.
We have a lot of content about TikTok that we've been publishing lately, and we are going to share it with you, and it includes quite a few stats that I think will be useful to you.
And then from Alejandro, thanks for joining us. What's your opinion to include third-party data to increase the results and improve audiences? What do you guys think?
I'm sorry, I'm just lost track of which.
I am here. There we go.
Well, yeah, what's even include third-party data to increase the results and improve audiences? Really important question actually at this particular time because as we know, Google recently announced that it's gonna kind of sunset the cookie slowly, and we are gonna have trouble actually using third-party data to do ads targeting. And so what it really means is that you got to start thinking about how are you managing your data in your marketing department and how much of it you actually own. So I think we're seeing a trend towards first-party data and accessing and having data on your own audiences, and of course audiences on Facebook and Google directly, but not, I think, third-party data. And I think that trend is slowly sort of fading away. It's going to take some time, and Google is sunsetting the cookie in 2022. So you have some time to change your system.
Some time to figure it out, yeah.
But
that's a really poetic way to say that.
I love the sentence "sunset the cookie." That's the main thing.
Hashtag sunset the cookie. There we go. Make it go viral. We have another question on LinkedIn from Pierre. Thanks for joining us. Again, TikTok is the question we're talking about, right? So do we have any data on TikTok, and what kind of content should companies do there?
TikTok. Have you guys checked out TikTok? Yeah?
Yeah.
Not very much.
Not extensively,
I've kind
but
of checked that as I'm too old to fully engage in this at this time, but
it's a great research tool for us as marketers.
It's amazing.
I believe.
Every time something comes out of there, I'm impressed by it. I'm interested in it, but I know better than to immerse myself.
Yeah, I found it so curious when I dove into it, just because of how the content is organized and how just different brands need to be from what they usually do on their other channels. And you're like,
absolutely.
What is this really coming from? Wendy's? Is this really good? Like, what content is this? And it's really
and that's
nice
the question. Yeah, what content should companies do there? And I think that is the question, as it's such a new platform.
Yeah.
Whether you should just immediately run all your resources and races towards that, or if you really need to have a calculated understanding of what you can get there and how you can really stretch your brand and your brand voice to fit there. And is it worth your time? And I think trying it could be worth your time, but
always.
it's a question.
Yeah.
Does a Snapchat mentality make any sense here? When you sort of imagine when Snapchat was new and brands trying to get involved, it's this very unprofessional platform that then they find a way to make useful for them. Do they should they look at TikTok similarly?
Yeah.
And is there any kind of comparison to be made there, or am I way off?
Yeah, slightly. Maybe a similar audience, slightly different use of the platform, some overlap.
Well, it's definitely different use, but I feel like audience is where you get into some similarity as far as when each one was first beginning.
Yeah, well, you're battling for the same people's attention, and if it's your target audience, then you're going to have to end up being maybe on both platforms if that's your core audience.
Yeah.
So it depends on which platform they're more used to using. You'll have to have a strategy there. But in terms of content for TikTok, I don't know, maybe that's just the platform where you can, the ideas that your management team rejected that you wanted to do on Instagram, maybe now you
Take
can
it to your TikTok.
And do some. But I like it because it really challenges brands to be different. And one advice for me would be, and whenever we don't know what to do, we look at the best content creators on those platforms, so influencers, and what the hell are they doing there?
Speaking of, we're now jumping into influencer marketing section. Monica, another favorite of yours.
Yes, moving on from the super nitty gritty from paid, we can talk more about this influencer marketing. It's still it's in all of our reports because of course it's still important, it's still doing its job, still getting the results that it's purported to do.
Which page is it?
So that is page 21 that we're looking at right now. And just on our evolution chart here showing a little more than the past year, that ad mentions, hashtag ad, and this does include kind of local variations, so whether that's simply SP or hashtag spawn, or then even in foreign languages, what they use there. So that's now factored into the data, and it's increased 90%.
Hallelujah.
since the last
Can we
quarter.
say that?
So that's
that is a huge number.
Nice work, everybody. Nice work, influencers.
Yeah.
It's super important I think, to me and to audiences who really spend a lot of time with influencers that there is this transparency and this honesty from influencers. They're gonna benefit so much by making that split and that differentiation. And I think that in the long term, the brands will of course benefit from being part of something so authentic and so honest.
Yeah.
Hey, this is an ad. This is what it's for. And I don't think just because something's an ad, people will really be turned off by it if it's the right ad for the right person, and it's obviously an ad.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that there's transparency, like you said. It's where the industry should have been some time ago. It's now there. It's great.
And of course, I mean, when all things are new and exploding, there are those growing pains when so many people jump on the bandwagon. How do you really standardize excellence, standardize the process to really make sure things are streamlined and as they should be? And I think influencer marketing will continue to be great if it continues to self-monitor and really have these standards.
Yeah, so one interesting thing, at least I think from this chart is, as we mentioned, the last quarter it jumped to 90%.
Yeah.
We don't make a whole lot of predictions here because you can never completely predict.
Right.
It is not going to continue going up post-holiday. You know, sometimes when you look at these and the volatility over a year, especially holiday marketing, end of year is really big, especially for something like that. You know, we had the big increase there.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if we don't see a dip in Q1.
That's true.
Yeah,
People
there's
need to
always
be really
volatility.
strong also during holiday marketing. That's where it's going to really count, and that's where you'll be in hot water, I think, if you're not really keeping things tight.
Yep. Looking at some specific examples of companies that used effective influencer campaigns on 24, slide 24.
Okay, let's head over to 24. What do we got?
So the top cooperation efficiency from our system, Virgin Media Ireland.
Virgin
This is
Media
an Instagram
Ireland.
account. They have 6,000 to 7,000 followers.
Yeah.
So much smaller than the rest of the accounts on here. However, found the right influencers to pair with, and that was what jumped the engagement up. Huge
Can you
for
break
them.
down cooperation efficiency for us a little bit?
Yeah, so it's really interesting what these numbers actually say. So when you look at these posts, so 99.98% of interactions for this brand came from that post. Well, those posts from influencers. So that is compared to when the brand itself posts the post versus when the influencer posts the post when it's working with that brand. And that is a different 99,000 time difference, right?
What is even that number?
that is the difference between maybe like a few interactions to like 100,000 interactions. That is a huge difference. And for some of these brands, and again, some of you in the audience, if you're really struggling on some of these channels, again, content creators, pair with them first, and they'll get that engagement going for your brand, and then maybe you'll find your own strategy there as well.
It's so interesting too, yeah, in terms of if you're suddenly having to scale your content creation rapidly, or you're finding you're lacking the resources, where do I spend my time and energy? Maybe if you're a smaller brand, influencer marketing can still be for you because look at the results. And if you don't have the time and energy to be creating amazing content all the time, you should reach out and look elsewhere and get some help.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. We have a question coming in
Okay.
from LinkedIn. Anna, thanks so much for joining us. Do you really think that Instagram is killing Facebook and Twitter, even if the stats at Instagram are so limited?
So
So killing it.
That sounds so dark.
that is a
like it.
harder word. I don't know. For me, Twitter is a kind of a special case a bit because Twitter is, and we have data. We can share this data with you later. It's when you look at the amount of content copy pasted across platforms. So that's content copy pasted from Facebook to Instagram by brands, and then copy pasted from Facebook to Twitter. So Twitter has the least of this happening, just because the platform is so different from anything else,
Right.
and that you need some kind of a unique strategy there, and it works differently. The people's intention for going to Twitter is also different. I think
Yeah.
it's very much.
And some
new
brands
source.
really do find Twitter to be the place to be. I think a lot of there are so many technology influencers there as
Yeah.
well. The tech community on Twitter, it's to the point. It's really interesting and influential there. So if you are a tech company, then or part of the tech space, Twitter is still going to be super important for you.
You're totally right. Yeah, and we have actually a podcast coming out with Twitter. So we sat down and spoke to them, and they're really focused on building that sense of community and, like you said, around different topics. And it's like you as a brand can be part of that sort of community within the Twitter sphere. So I think it's not killing it. No way. It's a different kind of vibe.
Well, the question was also, is Instagram killing Facebook and Twitter, right? So, and I think that kind of segues nicely into slide 29 for us, where we have the organic followers, posts, and interactions comparisons. We're looking at the top 50 brands on Instagram and Facebook. And for the first time that we've been measuring this, the audience on Instagram is slightly larger than
So
it
it's
is
a little
on
bit of a
Facebook.
slow clap here, right? Congratulations. This is first time ever, right? So how do we feel? What are you thinking?
I mean, it to me is this day was coming. When we've been looking at this data, they've been essentially neck and neck, a negligible difference. And even now, so let's not make too big a deal out of it, because the next quarter, Facebook could be back slightly ahead. They are so close. However, this kind of continues a trend that we've seen. And then the money data point to me is looking at total interactions, 20 times bigger on Instagram than on Facebook, which like if
That doesn't say something.
who
Well,
doesn't
look at
want
the
that?
size
Like,
of those dots.
You know, even though the total number of posts are still smaller on Instagram, they are just getting far more interactions. And so killing Facebook, absolutely not. You know, we started this by talking about how Facebook feed is still the biggest ad placement.
Right.
But I mean, if you're not stepping up your Instagram game, or you haven't in the last year, you're missing out 100%. Like that's where you need to be optimizing the most based on the data.
Right.
Yeah.
And Gianna, thanks so much. Hashtag sunset the cookie clap. Really appreciate your support there.
Yeah, there's also a good question that I think that Bruna has. Thanks for joining us again. I know you were with us in the last broadcast. Does the Instagram algorithm work as a neural network or like a decision tree? So this is a really curious question, because there's so little visibility on the way that the actual algorithm works, and we often make kind of guesses on the way it works. But I know who knows. Our dev teams. So
Should I go grab
yeah,
it?
can you please go get him to
It's a fun moment.
But we'll ask him, and we'll let you know.
Yeah. And then we have Mikkel. Hey, I hope your interview went well. Do you think that TikTok will stay oriented to young public in the future? So this is a question to TikTok. We were covering it a bit. We have a lot of articles written about this as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's also.
Or is it going to be killed by all of our grandparents, like so many other networks?
I think, well, when you look at TikTok audiences over time, and I think we shared the blog already,
have
but
that data.
We'll drop it again. So you see that it's a bit of a misconception that the audience is really young. It's really starting to mature. And of course, as the platform matures, that audience is going to stay there, and it's going to be a widening of the audience for sure in terms of age demographic, no doubt.
And we have a question from Pierre before we move on. Do you have any data on podcasts? What are the main KPIs? Well, if you guys
good question.
listen to our podcasts, then hopefully we'll have a little bit more data. But what are you looking into? What are the trends
Yeah,
here?
this is such a good question, and I make it a commitment of mine to go back after this video and find it and put out some content about this. But I also don't want to forget our audience on Facebook. So we're talking to people on LinkedIn. Maria has a question. What is the main factor that determines what social network my company should focus on?
Oh my gosh, all the factors here.
Start with audience, right?
Of course. Thank you for being the one to speak up.
Yeah, I mean, who are you trying to reach?
Exactly.
And based on that, that's your baseline assumption. If you don't know that, then you're just guessing in the blind. Like that's
Yeah.
what you have to start with, and then match that up with the platform, the audience that already exists there.
Yeah, and I think it'll be so much easier to, once you understand your audiences and where they are, creating your content becomes a little bit more of a natural process because you have to tailor it to them, but you also have to tailor it to the feel and vibe of the platform itself. So as a company, I think it's important to really know all of these factors, and then the content quality will be so much better. And then it's good to scale. I mean, people are everywhere, right? You're not going to be a one company, one platform kind of gal, right? You got to make sure that you're expanding out, and because your audiences will be everywhere. It's just how to communicate them across your different platforms.
The answer is actually in the data, in the report. If you look closely enough, it emerges.
Cool. What's next, Taylor?
All right, jumping ahead, slide 35. We're looking at the
35.
post types comparison, both by the post type the distribution on Instagram and Facebook, and throughout the quarters of 2019. So we have the comparison for both, and we can see some changes mostly on Instagram. Facebook, relatively the same throughout. Some minor changes. But image going down a bit, while video and carousel up a little bit on Instagram. Still by far, image is the king on both.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we started off talking Facebook feed, even though it's down a little bit, still the unquestioned leader, and that's still true of images on both platforms.
Unquestioned leader, but there's so much untapped potential in carousel and live video. And if we move on to, I think,
the
36,
very next slide.
Oh, is where we talk about the potential.
Look at that.
It's really important to invest where content is king, which is these images. That's sort of part of your day-to-day, but start exploring other avenues and what you could do and get creative with. So we see Facebook organic interactions by post type. Live video is on top. And what do we think? I mean, we're on live now. We're killing it. I know it. But a lot of people are afraid of doing live because it can feel like maybe inorganic part of your, not part of your brand voice, or it might be too scary. I don't know. It's scary. I'll tell you that. But what do you think?
It's definitely scary. But you guys are so nice. It's so easy for us to do this. But it's when you do the maths, you can kind of calculate that live appears, I think, 2 in 1,000 posts versus like a photo is, I don't know, like something 2 in 10. So it's just the overwhelming share of,
the difference is astronomical at this point.
Yeah. Well, we talked about even in our last trends video or podcast, check that out. But don't just go live again for the sake of live. You're like, oh, this has so much potential. Because if you have a bad live, or if you continuously having lives that aren't really going your way or really part of your vibe or your strategy, then it may not be worth it for you. And get those interactions where you're comfortable getting them as well.
Totally right. Yeah.
Now I feel bad. I didn't check if there was anything in my teeth
I know,
before
right?
we started.
You're good. You're all set.
All right, then we're fine. All right, moving on. Slide 38. Mantis, this is one that I know you were excited about. Another new piece of data.
There were feelings
that we had in this.
Yeah.
So the average watch time on a Facebook video is
4.57 seconds.
4.5 seconds.
And I lost sleep over this.
Do you want me to wipe your tears away?
This is the one. We figured out the one that kept you up at night.
No, this definitely kept me up at night. And the reason why it did is because we do create a lot of videos at Social Bakers. And, I realize that most of them aren't watched. And it's just really sad. And what are we doing? We're creating so much content, and we are maybe not focusing enough on the user and whether they're actually getting through this video, if it's enticing enough, if it's the right content at the right time for them.
Yeah.
And this is the result.
So you kind of expect this to be a bigger number.
No, I'm not surprised it's there. Because
You're not surprised, but you're depressed.
I thought it was
I'm
going to
not
be smaller,
surprised.
to be honest.
I think the average length, I actually asked the data team later when I saw this, like, what's the average length? And they said it's 24 seconds. So most of the Facebook content, video content out there is unwatched. We actually should go back and at least do the diligence and watch it all.
Right. or at least chop up our videos all 20 seconds into, 5 separate 4-second videos, right?
Make episodes of a season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe it makes season.
But it's so true. You're so right. We really, video is so powerful when used right, and we really should give our audiences what they deserve. And that's some killer video content. We hope we're doing that from a live perspective, but in general, what's your experience when deciding whether or not it's worth investing time and energy in doing a video? What is that like?
Well, often you are kind of driven by an idea, by an inspiration somewhere else, and so you develop a plan. There's many teams involved in video content. There's people who are in the video, like us,
Yeah.
There's a team shooting it. There's a team doing animation, and there's usually so many teams involved. And the process itself takes a really long time because there's so many teams involved. And in the end, you come out with something that maybe looks really good, and it's based on a lot of assumptions by you, and then you put it out and you're like, man, this is the content, but whatever, let's put a lot of money behind it.
You're like, this is our baby. We need to send this to a good college, send it
usually
off,
what
invest
happens.
in it. That's tough.
No, but for us, the average time is a bit higher than that. but I just, I
Because
hope
you
it
care.
changes. I just hope, for me, this says that, to me, it tells me that we got to slow down a bit and think about what we're doing.
Great point.
Yeah. It's another one that I'm going to be fascinated to see as it progresses, if we kind of keep up with this data to see how it changes, what it does.
Yeah.
Also, something we're not going to get into on this live, but if you guys download the report, which is linked right underneath where my finger is right now, then you can check out the comparison of horizontal versus vertical videos, what's
Yeah.
out there and what's actually being watched more, because I found some very interesting insights. Marketers maybe making some assumptions that aren't really true with what their
Yeah.
audience is actually doing.
Yeah.
But now we're jumping into slide 40, the most engaging Facebook posts, and then the one right behind that, Instagram post. So starting at Facebook, topped by Coca-Cola's Poland page.
Coca-Cola Poland.
This was the famous Coca-Cola truck was going to be visiting one final city in Poland, and so this was.
Oh my gosh, the final Coca-Cola
Yes, and
truck
so that
visit.
got interactions for him.
very
More than
exciting.
1.8 million there, and then 2 and 3 both from Toyota's global account.
Wow, Toyota, good work.
And an interesting thing with the second post there, touting their Land Cruiser. This, if you find this post on Facebook right now, it actually has about 3.2, 3.3 million interactions. Here you only see 1.8. And that is because this is ending at the end of Q4, but early in January, they put some ad spend into it, and it jumped up like a rocket, nearly doubled.
Wow. So that's where investing in the right post really
It
really
makes
pays
sense.
off.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I'm wondering, before we move on to the next reveal, we've got some questions. Is that all right?
We have so
guys?
many
Absolutely.
questions. You are so nice. Thanks a lot for being so active.
Thanks. So I'm on LinkedIn, and then you can hit up your Facebook. What do you
Yeah,
think?
let's do it.
So we have a question coming in. Is it possible to boost a live post on Facebook with your specific audience?
It is, in fact, possible. Case settled.
Try it out. And then Bruna again, if the videos are only seen for around, I know we were gonna stop talking about this sad point for you, but if the videos are only seen for around 4.57 seconds, why is it the recommended type of content to invest in?
Yeah. Well, they are both recommended type of content to invest in the report, and actually Facebook is really asking marketers to invest in it. So from the point of view of the report, it's actually the live video that really, from the data, that looks like that's the kind of video content you should invest in. The reason why Facebook is pushing it is because they do realize that when brands do get it right, video content, it really works. And that's what users do really want to see. And there's data on like vertical versus horizontal videos in the report. And it looks like if you actually have for shorter videos, vertical videos, people do watch it more. So there's really definitely, like, we need to learn as marketers how to catch people's attention when they're just kind of scrolling through quickly and watching these videos. Maybe they don't intend to go and see your video. So don't make a video as if people intend to watch it. Make your video as if no one cares, and now you got to make it pretty exciting.
It's a great point. We have another question coming in from Jana. So she wants to do a regional social media rally for all different internet social media experiences levels. So what would you say is the number one thing to focus on about the basics of using social media platforms? I think we covered one of them
Yeah.
is the basics is really, if you are a small team and you have your resources really restricted, make sure you are spending that time where it really counts. So whether if you know your audience or your platform, start there, and then you can make kind of scale out and get more creative. I think that's one of the big points and takeaways from engagement here.
Yeah, and share, our guides. Go to our blog. There's so much step-by-step guides on how to start with social media and where to begin.
It's true. All sort of workflows too. We have, if you need
Yeah.
an analytics point of view, what metrics you should really be focusing on. That was a blog that just came out that really breaks down what metrics are important and what are you trying to get from those metrics.
Yeah.
I liked that one.
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. We just did a webinar on a perfect workflow for all the content planning and strategy, and it's gonna be on the blog
On the
pretty
blog,
soon,
yep,
right?
find
yeah?
it on the YouTube page right now, on the
Cool.
blog soon.
It's-
Yes,
yeah,
yes, sir.
awesome.
Boss man.
Yeah, and that's so important too because if you are a small team, you really need to get your processes sorted to make sure
Yeah,
it's super smooth sailing. So good luck with that, and hope it goes
good
well.
yeah.
Yeah, the last note on that, I would say just test
Yeah.
everything. Don't assume like you're trying different platforms, try different tone of voice, different art, different presentation. Test everything. Don't assume that you know, and then let the results dictate what you're doing and go forward.
Exactly. That's a great point. We always say data, not guesswork. I mean, we all like to go with our hearts sometimes, but on social media, it really pays off to follow the data.
Yeah. May I answer the audience on Facebook.
You may.
We will allow that.
We
Mantis,
may.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Fatima, thanks for joining. So she has a question. Moving from content towards analytics, any specific trends in analytics that we should look out for?
Trends in analytics.
Yeah. Cool ones.
Yeah, we have a lot in the report, I think, in terms of measuring now ephemeral content, these stories,
Yeah.
things that are not staying around for too long. There used to not be a way to measure that over time historically. We can actually do that in our Social Bakers platform. So you don't just have that 24 hours and it's gone. You can really measure your stories over time. So like tap backs, tap forwards, swipe ups, things like that. I think that may be a really cool analytics trend, learning from your speedy content and your stories and things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We actually just recently did a brand survey study for Social Bakers, and we had an interesting conversation with people who did it, and they said, well, there's really a shift in the market from, and they use the word post-mortem analytics and towards predictive analytics, and that's
Yes.
really what we kind of see at Social Bakers as being the trend, and we really try to focus that, and that's exactly how our AI works, towards predicting the trends of what's going to happen when you put this content out. And
Exactly. You want
how's
that
it gonna
security, sort of that
perform.
guarantee enough to make sure that your results are matching with the effort that you're really putting into it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, jumping back quick, just a quick look at the most engaging Instagram posts. I think we just have to give a shout out to Netflix.
Shout out to Netflix.
This is not that they really need it from us. I think they're
No,
doing
they don't-
fine.
they don't care that much.
But the second quarter in a row where they've had the first and third most engaging posts.
They didn't want to take the top two spots. right?
Exactly. That's too selfish. They want to spread it out a little bit. But these particular ones, we've got just a poster for the sequel to a series, and then a carousel of photos for the sequel to a movie. And I know last quarter they were doing it with there was a video and a carousel, and so they're kind of all different types of media that they're implementing, and it's all working pretty well for them. So.
Yeah, that keeps it interesting, and I think it's so interesting to see the diehard fans that really will spend their time engaging with their favorite series, and then when the sequels come out, there's so much engagement to be had there, like questions being asked, people predicting. I think there's probably a bunch of people tagging their friends and stuff like this about the release dates and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty easy engagement to get there, I think, for them.
I want to raise my hand that I bet we're going to start seeing Disney here pretty soon with their subscription model.
That's a good point.
Yeah. We should look out. Those
Right.
some
Keep
good
churning
stuff.
out those reports, Taylor. It's exciting.
All right, and then last section of the report here, if you're following along at home, stories, looking at slide 45, Monica, as you mentioned, this is something that we can really look at now. Not only, so the graph here, we see that stories are actually being posted more often than posts on the regular feed. Although I remember when I first kind of reacted to that, Mantis, you said, well, of course. Because think about it. And it is any brand, how many stories are you posting through the day versus how much on your main feed? I think it does make sense that stories have overtaken posts.
It's so interesting too because stories are so easy to consume so quickly, and I think the data shows that if people are consuming them so quickly, you really need to understand which stories they can enjoy all the stories together, but which stories of those stories you should concentrate on more of. So that's where the data between moving on to.
Yeah, that's actually
Where
where
we have
we're-
that tap backs, tap forwards.
Yeah, there's a lot more data in the report about tap backs and tap forwards for your industry, like for a specific industry. So if you're curious to see it, go and check it out. But I think the important thing not to forget, if you're managing a social media team, or if you're just you're doing these stories and you're kind of overwhelmed by the amount of content you're doing because you're doing the feed post and then the stories post, someone needs to know in the organization how much work it actually is, because I don't think people realize how much work stories take up. And like you said, it needs to be measured. And I don't know if people really are measuring it as much. Are you measuring stories? Are you measuring tap forwards, clicks? What are you measuring? Are you tracking referral traffic from stories? It's a whole world we have to consider.
Yeah, and in our last report, we highlighted exit rate too. Understanding that is huge in changing your strategy. But you make a really good point this time. It's not just for you to understand your strategy, but for you to be the hero in your own organization. Look, I'm putting so much effort and energy into this stories content, and it is making a difference because it seems so on the fly. But really, the best stories take so much good planning strategy and just understanding of what your audiences really love.
Yeah, and we feel you because we have big social media team here, but they are, stressed out just because of the demand for content. It's just huge nowadays. But there's probably questions coming in, Monica, right?
I can, I almost sort of just got lost in them over here. So it's a lot of questions still from the video perspective, because this is such a big topic that was hit Mantis's heart so dearly. Thanks, Pierre. Should companies focus on mute videos, considering the fact that majority of videos are watched without sound?
Yeah.
And then I think our Social Bakers team jumped right in talking about subtitles. So it's so big. We do subtitles for our videos as well. And I think it's not just about mute videos, but also bringing in all different types of localized audiences who maybe need to read what's going on, to really soak things in.
Yeah, and I remember a while back, maybe a year ago or so, had data on videos without subtitles versus videos with, and the difference is vast in terms of engagement. So you need to have those subtitles, and maybe the subtitles they're not needed any longer when someone is really interested in your video and they kind of turn the sound on and they have time, and actually watch the video. But to pull them in, you need those subtitles.
Oh, and it looks like I lied. We didn't answer about subtitles. We actually had a guest answer. Anna, thank you so much for providing your expertise too.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Cool. And we have another video question from Beatrice. Does the video watch time depend on the platform? And is there a preferred platform where people stick around for longer? We were talking about this just recently. In terms of the preferred platform where people stick around for longer, I think we can confidently talk about YouTube. Yeah. This is where you are going specifically to get some really killer video content, and you're primed for something a little bit longer. You're ready to sit down. Whereas if you're scrolling through Facebook, these 15-second or these shorter videos really need to be short and sweet. TikTok, even shorter and sweeter, moving fast. So I think the preferred platform for sticking around longer. And if it's part of your strategy, these long videos as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but for me, YouTube, is my TV now. It's just, it has everything. And the content is so good there. And it's, I don't know, they're rocking. Like, they're really doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, both in terms of just what you go there to find. I use it mostly for music and things, but they have their own series now. Like, you can get literally anything on YouTube, and that's what they're trying to entrench themselves as. It's just it's them and Netflix kind of have sort of similar outlooks, it seems, on things, that they want to be what you turn on when you go home.
Yeah, and of course they made it really easy for it to be monetized by whoever's creating the content through advertising revenue, and it's just.
And we're talking too that ads feel a little bit more palatable there, because you are watching a long form video. You don't maybe mind investing, your 30 seconds.
If you're going to get fair.
Yeah, definitely fair.
Yep.
It's a great way to put it. All right, that's us from LinkedIn. What about you? Anything coming in on Facebook that you want to catch?
Let me quickly check. We have Fatima just thanking us for answering the question. Thanks for joining. I think we don't want to probably go for the entire report.
No, tap forward and tap back rate. I already told you where you can download the report to check that out. Other things, horizontal versus vertical video. What are people actually making? What's being consumed? Yeah. That's in the report. Dig into the funnel conversions even more. Everything that we touched on is there in more detail, plus kind of even more information, click-through rate, cost per thousand, evolution in the quarter. Lots of stuff in there.
Seems like you spent a lot of time with that report.
Decent amount.
And what was I think your main or your most interesting takeaway as you were sort of entrenched in the data and what it was all meaning?
I mean, I do take something away from the video watch time, just to have something hard to hold on to, a number there. And that's just on Facebook. And so then we can kind of, I guess we need to look beyond that to get some of the comparisons. But what are you actually getting from your investment of a video? If you are putting so much production value into something, even if it's only a 30-second video and 5 seconds of it are watched, did that work for you? Was there some type of benefit of return on investment that you got from that? And it depends on the situation. And it's because it's pushed so much, like you were saying, Mantis, that just means that there's a lot to filter through. There's a lot of not good videos there that make it even harder for the cream to rise to the top. So it's a challenging area that we're kind of looking to have some harder numbers on, which I found interesting.
Very cool.
And did you see the comment from Jaina? It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. This is so encouraging to know that we are really helping.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's awesome.
we're doing these live videos quite a bit, and we really want to make sure that they are interesting. So all the feedback that comes in, really, and the questions, you guys really make it what it is, and steer the topics to what's really mattering to you guys. So that's
Exactly.
pretty cool.
So I have some notes of what I need to actually follow up on later. And of course, we will try to put out content based on your feedback and make life easier. And I can see someone's looking for mentorship. We are your mentors for now. I hope we can be. And of course, just connect with us on LinkedIn. And
Yes.
whenever you have a question related to social media, we'll answer it. Shoot us a message on our channels. No matter how difficult it is, we'll try to
We'll do
figure
our
out the answer.
We're surrounded by a lot of social media gurus here, so if we can't find the answer, we'll find somebody for sure who does. So
Yeah.
and of course, this is a live video, but it's being recorded as a podcast. So if you want to share it out and sort of talk through the points that we covered, and then explore even more yourself by downloading the report, it'd be super cool.
Yeah. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah. See you next week. Different subject.
All
Thank
right.
you.